President Trump hits Iran hard again after they claim they've closed the Strait of Hormuz again. The sudden death of a key Republican senator has many wondering about the politics in the aftermath. And World Cup attendees from Europe, well, they don't hate the United States quite as much as American leftists do. The results are in. It's Monday, July 13th, and this is news and commentary from America's Heartland. You're watching Heartlander News. Welcome into Heartlander News. Be sure to bookmark and regularly check in for the very latest news headlines written by journalists you can always trust at heartlandernews.com. Welcome in today. My name is Chris Stigall. Well, it's been rather interesting here in the last few days. The Strait of Hormuz, Iran is declaring, is closed again. The United States military has launched a new round of strikes against Iranian targets near the Strait of Hormuz Saturday in response to an IRGC missile attack that left the commercial cargo ship badly damaged. Kristen Welker over there on Meet the Press. Give me number 84, if you would, please, Aaron, to get this started. Talking with President Trump yesterday about a litany of different issues, but this came up, and President Trump quickly shutting her down on the misinformation. Take a listen.
You obviously launched a fresh round of strikes overnight. Iran said overnight the Strait of Hormuz is closed. CENTCOM came out this morning and said the Strait of Hormuz is open. Which is it, Mr. President,
it's
and
open,
how are you going to respond?
And I don't want to talk about it because I want to honor the life of Lindsey Graham, so I don't want to talk about it. I told you that before the call.
Yeah.
It's open. We bombed the hell out of them last night. They're very, very evil and sick people. We had meetings with them for the last. They agreed to a deal yesterday, a perfect deal for us. No nuclear, no this, no that, no nothing. They gave up everything. Mm-hmm. And then after that, they left the room. And then within an hour, they launched a drone at a ship. I said, you people are sick. You're sick people. And so it's one of those things. I don't want to talk about it.
Finally, before I let you go.
I want to talk about one person today, Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, and then a little later, Mike Walls, the UN ambassador for the Trump administration, and number 93 here, if you would please, Aaron. Mike Walls confirms that Iran is, in fact, going to face major consequences for attacking the strait. They have already, and they will continue to, according to Walls. Take a listen.
Shipping, if you don't get your way, you can't hold the world's economy hostage. The president's not going to stand for it. And he made that very clear. There will be consequences if Iran continues to not only violate the deal, but as I said, international law. Meanwhile, Maria, it's worth noting that technical negotiations around the nuclear program, President Trump has always been most focused on that, are continuing in terms of inspections, in terms of what to do with the highly enriched uranium, the enrichment program. Those pieces are continuing, but we are not going to stand for these attacks on civilian ships. The President Trump has hit back. He's hit back proportionally, but at the end of the day, Iran is going to pay the price.
Yeah, and the president is threatening consequences should the Strait of Hormuz not be open. There seems to be a struggle over the Strait of Hormuz becoming the number one flashpoint here. Is it open or not?
Oh, it's open, as Central Command has said, and most of the targets that we've hit the last several nights have been directly aimed at Iran's radar, sensors, drones, and missile batteries right there on the strait to eliminate and degrade their ability to attack the global economy. So we're going to take that leverage off the table. Our great...
Yeah, and this morning, as I read this, as we're going live, Iran has also overnight struck U.S. military sites in Bahrain, Oman, Jordan, and Kuwait, to which U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth wrote online, Iran made a poor choice. Now they pay. So this only looks to escalate, and it's pretty obvious why. President Trump is hitting Iran for a very simple reason. The Iranian regime is a sworn mortal enemy of the United States. And history shows you just simply can't negotiate ultimately with mortal enemies. You have to crush them. Nazi Germany didn't turn peaceful after a nice conversation. Neither did Imperial Japan. They didn't stop until their government was destroyed and its military was broken. When you're dealing with an ideology that is driven by lunatic fanaticism, regimes that want you dead, the fighting only comes to a conclusion when one side forces the other to surrender unconditionally. In Iran, unfortunately, happens to be that kind of regime. They chant death to America in the street and in their parliament. They bankroll terrorism all over the Middle East. They kill Americans through their proxies. Israeli intelligence just picked up a specific plot, a real plot, to assassinate President Trump. Like Hitler, these people see compromise as weakness. They don't want any kind of deal. They want to win, period, full stop. Neville Chamberlain in the UK tried the peace route with Hitler, and we all know how that turned out. It only made the war worse, ultimately. The late, great Rush Limbaugh, I remember he used to say, what he called the Limbaugh Middle East peace plan. Rush put it plain and simply: the only way some form of quiet will ever exist is if Israel is given the latitude to totally defeat its declared enemies. Perpetual negotiations, diplomatic half measures, or land for peace deals, that's never going to bring peace. Rush Limbaugh was right about that back then, and he's right today. The same principle applies today as it did back then. You don't reason with rabid animals. You put them down. And that's why President Trump's response has been and continues to be the correct one. It isn't about an endless war. It's about ending the threat. You hit their ability to attack ships in the Strait of Hormuz. You take out air defenses, missiles, drones, naval bases. Make it crystal clear that threatening American lives, threatening American ships, or threatening the American president, more specifically, that's going to come with a brutal price. And only after this regime is broken does a decent Iran even have a chance. The Iranian people deserve better than the mullahs who currently run that operation. The free world deserves better than a weaponized theocracy that openly calls for our destruction. Now, there are many who still want more talks, more envoys, more hope that the next meeting will finally work. History, like Rush Limbaugh, say otherwise. Evil regimes that call you the great Satan don't suddenly become reasonable. They stop when they're forced to stop. And Trump gets this. He's not interested in photo ops and empty arguments. He wants results. When a regime plots to kill the president of the United States, the only proper answer is overwhelming strength. And that's not warmongering. That's realism. That's leadership. And that's why President Trump's response to Iran is the right one. Trump gave Iran a chance to re-enter the civilized world. What did Iran do? Well, they chose war. And as the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, said today on X, Iran chose poorly. And that's the latest there. Meanwhile, Margaret Brennan over at CBS News gets cooked by the Israeli ambassador to the United States as a guy named Ro Khanna. I don't know if you know much about Ro Khanna here, but he is a left-wing Democrat from California. He callously ignored an invitation to meet former Israeli hostages and survivors of the horrific October 7th, 2023 terrorist attack during a visit to the Holy Land this week. And this reverberated. This report originally came from the New York Post. It reverberated into the Sunday shows, and the Israeli ambassador really let him have it. Take a listen to this in clip number 95. Here's Margaret Brennan talking about Ro Khanna here.
Before I let you go, there were two high-profile incidents I want to quickly touch on here. One, a CNN crew attacked in the West Bank by what they say were 4 settlers. There was also an incident with Ro Khanna, the congressman from California, who said he was his vehicles he was in were stopped by Israeli settlers, and then when the IDF showed up, they were on the side of the settlers, not him. He said it's not a good idea to detain long shot presidential candidates. It was a warning to your government. Do you think your government needs to apologize to both him and those CNN journalists?
Any violence is to be condemned. No excuses, no explanations. Okay, so if CNN crew was attacked, that needs to be condemned, and I'm doing so right now. And we need to do a better job.
You are condemning it. Their report.
If it was actually took place as they've reported it, absolutely condemning it. We need to rein in violence on all sides. Now, in terms of Ro Khanna, we reached out to him when we heard he was going to Israel, the Israeli embassy here in Washington. As all congressmen do, they coordinate their trip with the Israeli government. We suggested he visit with survivors of the October 7th massacre, that he visit the borders so he understands the issues that we have on our borders and so on. He ignored that, and he decided to coordinate his trip not with Israel, but with Palestinian activists and with J Street, which is a anti-government, anti-Israeli government advocacy group here in Washington. So, you know, he coordinated.
It's a Jewish Slavi group.
Well, it's
that is supportive of a different path for Israel.
Yeah. I play tennis once a year. That doesn't make me a tennis player. The fact that they call themselves a Jewish organization is irrelevant. They're a advocacy group against the government of Israel. That has to be clear.
Netanyahu government.
Yes.
Is what you mean. The government you work for.
And Congressman Khanna has made no secret about his antipathy towards the government of Israel as well. So perhaps if he would have coordinated the trip and then, you know, to have this incident on Wednesday and wait to release it on Saturday, maybe this had more something to do with his support of Graham Plattner beforehand and the difficulties he had with that and trying to shift the focus to something else. Perhaps. I'm asking a question.
Well, we did hear from Congressman Khanna, who said that there was an alert to the embassy on his behalf, and that they asked for the news to be held until he had left the country.
There was not an alert. There was a question about visas. That's all. But when we requested that he coordinate the trip with us, he rejected that by basically staying silent. So that's unfortunate. This whole incident is unfortunate. And if somebody, it's kind of interesting that somebody wants to declare a presidential run by running off to Israel. Not strange?
Well, we're going to have to leave it there, sir. There's so much more to talk about with you, but I'm out of time. Thank you for coming in. We'll be right back.
Ro Khanna. Isn't it strange? He's declaring himself a presidential candidate and runs off to Israel. Well, you know, Margaret Brennan is married. Just as a point of order, it is not, I'm not implying anything. I just think it's an important bit of information you ought to know. Margaret Brennan herself is married to a Muslim man. And you should know that, just because that may very well inform the way she looks at the world. Don't you think, if you're sitting there grilling the Israeli ambassador? Maybe not. I don't know. But I like this game. Like, why does Margaret Brennan get to put people on defensive? What motivates Margaret Brennan? What motivates her line of questioning? Her own personal life? Maybe. I don't know. I just think it's fun to question the questioners. And we do that here. Ro Khanna, speaking of, while we're on him, one more, and this is just delightful because he does fancy himself the future of the Democrat Party. Boy, they are still trying to figure out what to do about this Graham Plattner situation. As we reported here last week, the Graham Plattner candidacy is done there in Maine. He officially hung it up over the weekend. Number 388 here, if you would please, Aaron. Ro Khanna, very, very confident that Graham Plattner was going to soldier on and get through this thing. Of course, he ultimately didn't. And now Mr. Khanna wants us all to reflect. This should be a moment for all of us to stroke our chins and consider the future.
He says that he was in a dark chapter of his life. He became an alcoholic, and there were years of acting in ways that he really regrets. And he asked for grace and redemption. And he thinks he's a changed person, a transformed person. I believe him. But I will say I got that call wrong. And if there's some self-reflection, it is that we all need to see the signs earlier of people who may engage in domestic violence. Look, I wasn't the only one. You had Planned Parenthood, you had Senator Warren, you had the entire Democratic Party. But I did get that call wrong.
Oh, yeah. We all need to apply lessons. No, you got the call wrong. We were all applying. You know, when a guy shows up with a Nazi tattoo on his chest decades ago, that's pretty disqualifying to me for an American political figure, particularly in the United States Senate. But for Ro Khanna, it's, you know, well, we all make mistakes. Now we all need to reflect. that nice? I love how these guys all rope us in to their problems. We all need to do better, sure. Democrats in Maine have a rare task, writes The Hill, and a tight window to replace Graham Plattner with a new Senate nominee in the critical toss-up state, and observers see the party applying lessons from 2024's presidential campaign switch-up. Plattner suspending his campaign operations last week, as you know, after rape allegations. And now there's a rare instance of a candidate withdrawing from a Senate race after notching a major nomination. Democrats now have just 2 weeks before the deadline to name a new contender. And that short window has sparked flashbacks to the 2024 presidential cycle, when then President Biden made a late exit from the race and endorsed former Vice President Cacklebritches, Kamala Harris, prompting criticisms that the process appeared dominated by insiders. So they think they're about to get another Kamala Harris situation here. And I think the Democrats are probably right to be concerned about it. By the way, we just had the anniversary of Ms. Harris's inspirational locker room speech from July 10th of this year. Remember, Kamala Harris has many times now visited the locker rooms of students and players, both collegiate and professional, over the years, and given inspirational locker room speeches. I was reminded that not last year, but 2 years ago, Kamala Harris, I believe, attended the women's NCAA finals and gave some ridiculous locker room talk. She's back now, and she attended the LA Sparks versus Chicago Sky WNBA game and was interviewed courtside, and spoke to Sparks players in the locker room after their win. Give me number 89. This is just a nice reminder for Democrats, when the guy you think is going to be your nominee is suddenly dispatched with quickly, and you've got a couple of weeks to fill, this is who the Democrats will often hand you. So buyer beware, Democrats.
Having an incredible impact. I travel our country. Young girls, boys, people of every gender, background, race, watch the W. Yeah. And understand how inspiring it is. So keep doing what you're doing. You guys are impacting people who you may never meet, people who may never know your names or mine, but they are aware of what you are doing. And it is giving them a sense of their value and their dignity and what they have a right to expect from this world. So congratulations on this game, but congratulations as much as anything else for the path you guys are charting. It is extraordinary to watch. That's it. I just together on three.
One, two, three.
Oh boy. I don't know if anybody actually ever listens to that woman speak, but it's just remarkable. She just, I don't know, like a jazz musician. What do they call that in jazz? Scatting. It's word salad. It's not. I just made notes because it's always fun to try to track it. That people watching in who may not know your names or mine learn their value and their dignity, and the right that they the right to expect what they have the right to expect from this world. The right to expect from this world. Watching the WNBA will cause young people to learn the rights they can expect from this world. What does that even mean? Nobody knows. Nobody cares. Nobody listens. People just clap because it's Kamala Harris. And that's who we and every now and again, I think it's worth the reminder that not too terribly long ago, we dodged a real bullet there. That was who the Democrats served up after the husk said, he didn't say he was out. He was shoved aside, of course, ultimately. And she was chosen. So Democrats are terrified, truth be told, that Graham Plattner, who was this very kind of Bernie bro with a Nazi tattoo type, very organically chosen in Maine, now been shoved out because he's a rapey candidate from Maine. And they got to pick somebody new in 2 weeks. And they're terrified they're going to get a Kamala Harris because they really think they're going to beat Susan Collins in Maine with the right candidate. And they think the Democrats are going to set them up to fail. We'll see. Meanwhile, just while we're on politics for a little bit, the tiny little pocket-sized governor of Pennsylvania, his name's Josh Shapiro. He's Jewish, you know, although depending on the interview, he'll either tell you he's very proud of that or very disappointed in it. I'm not sure which. Kind of depends on the day. Shapiro says the 2028 presidential race should be a once-in-a-generation battle over the Democrat Party's core identity. It's interesting since he doesn't know exactly how he identifies. But he's not picking up his sword to fight, writes Axios. As progressives and socialists have won primary after primary in recent weeks, the more moderate Shapiro often has been gun-shy about criticizing the left, taking more of a we're all in this together approach. That ain't going to work, Joshy. You can't do that with these people. They like Graham Plattner. They don't want Josh Shapiro for a host of reasons. And I'm saying figuratively. Of course, I know Graham Plattner's the candidate in Maine, but I'm saying Josh Shapiro thinking he wants to be a presidential candidate. Remember, he was passed over before by Kamala Harris for being Jewish. Many center-left Democrats are looking for a national leader to go toe-to-toe with the party's rising socialist wing. For now, that's not Shapiro. The potential 2028 contender's recent restraint in criticizing socialists underscores a defining trait. He picks his spots and rarely acts impulsively. His moves also suggest he doesn't want to completely alienate the left. He sought to court progressives at times, implicitly acknowledging the movement's growing power. Shapiro recently has said that Democrats need to have an ideological clash like they did in 1992 when they nominated Bill Clinton. Yes. Excellent. Please, let's have the Democrat Party debating the Clintons again and a return to the Clintons in 92. Oh, please. How delightful. A wing of the party clamoring for the Clinton era while another wing of the party goes Graham Plattner, Nazi, and theocratic, wild-eyed jihadist in guys like Zoran Mamdani in New York. What a delicious collision. And, you know, I just say, in spite of the Republicans' troubles, and there are plenty, by the way, I am not in any kind of denial that the Republicans are not exactly inspiring right now, particularly when you're talking about things like the SAVE Act being tied up in the Senate. I think House Republicans are doing a far better job. It's the Republicans in the Senate that are very frustrating. And now with the news of Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell, which I'll get into in just a minute, things look ever more precarious. So it's not as though the Republicans are very, very inspiring. However, the Democrats are having such an ideological clash, the Republicans might just win in spite of themselves this fall. Might. A lot of time left before November, but it's pretty interesting. In fact, there's a interesting peek at what could be a big upset coming in Oregon. Maybe Republicans are suddenly within striking distance of flipping one of America's bluest states out there. With the GOP gubernatorial candidate Christine Drazen, I believe is her name, narrowly leading Tina Kotek, the Democrat incumbent. Public opinion strategies found this Drazen person leading Kotek 48-44. It is within the margin of error, but that is big news and one to keep an eye on if true. Oregon is being governed terribly, as those of you who live there know. I hear from friends of mine in Oregon, a beautiful state, most of it red, as is the case with the less populated areas of most states. They're red. Conservatives don't like to live in these urban jungle, lunatic, rabid dog, lock away all your goods and services in the stores, and, you know, homeless people defecating in the street. Most people don't like living in that stuff like liberals do, taking streetcars and living in high rises. Most people like to live out in the country, and that's where they all vote red. But again, it's always important to keep in mind that with the American left, they like to live in tightly packed cities. They like to import into these tightly packed cities a lot of illegal aliens, a lot of crime, a lot of homeless. It's just Mad Max and the Thunderdome garbage, and they always vote blue. Probably because most of it's not even supervised, but even so, Oregon's a beautiful state, and most of the people that live in Oregon outside its major cities are conservatives too. And so it may just be that things have gotten bad enough. That's always the rhetorical question that people ask. in Democrat-run cities that are falling apart. How bad does it have to get before a Republican gets a shot? We thought that might happen in LA. Of course, you can't really trust elections in California either because they count ballots for months. But in places like Oregon, how bad does it have to get? Maybe this is the year that Oregon gets a Republican governor. It'll be one to watch if true. It's happened in places like Maryland before, so we'll see. The GOP, mentioned them earlier, just so you know about this too. The Republican National Committee, this will be continued to cover. This story will be, along with much related to the both summertime and fall for the Republicans and their convention. They're about to have a big one. They went into this last weekend releasing details about their first midterm convention. This is a big deal that President Trump is spearheading. President Trump's tenacious and grueling work schedule finally rubbing off on the GOP as their leaders are trying to keep pace. Whether advancing his agenda, holding events, or dominating the news cycle, Trump's pace has been notoriously relentless. And for weeks after his June 30th post, the broader party apparatus appeared to be playing catch-up, planning in the background while the president kept moving, with the RNC announcing they're going to head to Dallas, Texas. The state parties beginning to circulate VIP packages reaching $20,000, with some California packages hitting $250,000. The party infrastructure appears to be operating at the up-tempo Trump has set. So just keep a sharp eye on that. There will be a big convention in Dallas. Trump formally announced the now inaugural Republican National Midterm Convention on Truth Social on June 30th, calling it a truly historical event set for September 9th and 10th in Dallas. So mark it on your calendar, the first of its kind Republican Midterm Convention, September 9th and 10th in Dallas. And then one more on the Senate side, and then we'll get to Lindsey Graham and that news in just a minute. The Senate is holding a slew of confirmation hearings for Trump nominees as time is running short before their August recess. It's outrageous to me that they're going to take a recess. I know Mike Lee and others have suggested we shouldn't go anywhere until we get the Save America Act passed. The Senate scheduled several confirmation hearings starting today to confirm many of President Trump's nominees ahead of their August recess. They will move to confirm several to serve in key positions, including the next director of national intelligence and a new attorney general. They hope they can fill the vacant government positions while time is running out. So to the Senate, while we're there, Mitch McConnell out at the moment. He released something over the weekend showing his upright, somewhat, we assume, lifelike body next to his wife in some kind of hospital bed. He's fully dressed, and he's suggesting that he had a fall. They have not been at all transparent about what's going on with his health. As you know, last week on this show, your host told you, and I agree with, in fact, let's go to, I love this guy. Where'd he go? I just had it a minute ago. Sorry, guys. Hang with me here. Oh, yes, Tim Burchett of Tennessee. Listen to clip 92 here, Aaron. This is the representative from Tennessee, Tim Burchett, talking about Mitch McConnell, who has been hospitalized for a while now. Nobody knows exactly where he is or the state of things. So they send out this picture of him sitting upright in a hospital bed saying he had a fall. Most people are not buying that. I'm not either. It was a medical emergency of some kind, and it was not a fall. That's very clear. But anyway, here's how the representative phrased it.
Just days after McConnell went to the hospital, his wife, Elaine Chao, flew to China to meet with the Chinese vice president. Congressman, great to see you. What do you think is going on here?
Well, I think her ties to China have been suspect for a long time in the transportation world, and serving on transportation, that always raised an eyebrow for me. But nothing happens in this town by accident. Of course, I'm in Tennessee. Things happen by accident down here, but nothing in Washington ever happens by accident. It's just it's a cover-up on top of a cover-up, and that's why nobody trusts what's going on in Washington. This whole thing is a farce. I think a lot of people have some ideas about what's going on. There's a timeline of elections when they would occur, and you're right. How can you be critical of Joe Biden wandering around the White House, not knowing, looking for the soft serve ice cream machine, for 4 years when you can't be critical of this. So yeah, it's in our own party. It goes, and that proves my point about the deep state. This town is just Washington D.C. is just a large man-made sewer, and we rarely stir it. We just let it sit there and stink, and we don't drain it. And this is what continues to happen time and time again.
He's not wrong, and more should be made of Mitch McConnell not serving, not in office, and nobody really being terribly transparent about it. But nevertheless, while that is happening, Lindsey Graham suddenly died over the weekend. The senator died of what's being reported by the Wall Street Journal anyway as an aortic tear due to cardiovascular disease. Graham's office announced the findings on Sunday, said the death certificate will remain pending until all toxicological and microscopic testing is completed. Test results could take weeks. Emergency responders sent to Graham's home Saturday night performed CPR on an individual suffering cardiac arrest, according to dispatch. Shortly before 8:30 p.m. Saturday, D.C.'s fire and EMS responded to a report of chest pains at a home on South Capitol Street, just a few blocks from the Capitol. Public records lists one of those as Lindsey Graham's address. Minutes later, officials radioed that a caller who reached 911 on a call, an unidentified woman said she wasn't in the home at the time, was driving from Baltimore to the address, had dispatchers at her front door, and it was unlocked. So sadly, that's, I guess, the details as we know them right now of Lindsey Graham's passing. Stephen Miller, one of the president's chief aides, wrote a really heartfelt tribute to Lindsey Graham. I'm going to read that to you in a minute, but it bears repeating that the American left, they give no quarter, they give no sympathy, they give no moment of time for reflection, or they never quit, they never lay down their arms, they never stop advancing. So when you run into somebody who says, oh, can't we get along? Can't we just have more bipartisanship? Why does it always have to be so much fighting? Can't we have, why can't Republicans and Democrats come together on something? Well, listen to Margaret Cho. She's a committed, avowed left-wing wackadoo, supposed comic. Give me number 86 here. Here's how she and many leftists, upon the news of hearing Lindsey Graham died Saturday night into Sunday morning, here's how she talked about Lindsey Graham.
Bye, Lindsey. Bye, Lindsey Graham. From the closet to the coffin. Real seamless. Real seamless. Also, yeah, Mitch McConnell. So it's Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham. It does happen in threes. Hope.
Pretty sick. Not surprising, but pretty sick. And just worth
Bye,
remembering.
Lindsey. Bye.
It's pretty worth. It's just worth remembering that that's what makes these people tick. That's how mentally ill and unbalanced they are. They're so full of hatred politically. There's just no decency left. It's why they've got to be defeated, and it's why people like me, anyway, have very little time for the Senate dragging their heels on basic things like the Save America Act, because we know that if people like that, with mentalities like that, get in charge of the United States Senate, they will think not a moment about getting rid of the filibuster and passing whatever whacked out, wild-eyed, crazy agenda they want. And they're not going to sit around and ask for your permission or talk about rules and how they don't want to break traditions and norms. That's as broken and demented as it gets. And there's not a bit of humility in it at all. There's not a bit of reflection in it at all. Unapologetically, full steam ahead for those people. Never forget, if you're politically interested in any way, what you're up against in the American left. That's their attitude every day. Found a clip of Lindsey Graham defending Justice Kavanaugh. And it really is, whatever you want to say about Lindsey Graham, many times he was very entertaining. And when it came to defending people like Justice Kavanaugh from the unbelievable, withering attacks, completely unsubstantiated, that he received when he was going through the confirmation process, here's just some of Lindsey Graham's finest moments in number 83 here. Just a little walk down memory lane of what he was capable of when the cameras were rolling and he had to step up to the plate.
Are you aware that at 9:23 on the night of July the 9th, the day you were nominated to the Supreme Court by President Trump, Senator Schumer said, 23 minutes after your nomination, "I will oppose Judge Kavanaugh's nomination with everything I have. I have a bipartisan, and I hope a bipartisan majority will do the same. The stakes are simply too high for anything less." Well, if you weren't aware of it, you are now. Did you meet with Senator Dianne Feinstein on August 20th?
I did meet with Senator Feinstein.
Did you know that her staff had already recommended a lawyer to Dr. Ford?
I did not know that.
Did you know that her and her staff had this allegations for over 20 days?
I did not know that at the time.
If you wanted an FBI investigation, you could have come to us. What you want to do is destroy this guy's life, hold this seat open, and hope you win in 2020. You've said that, not me. You've got nothing to apologize for. When you see Sotomayor and Kagan, tell them that Lindsey said hello, because I voted for them. I would never do to them what you've done to this guy. This is the most unethical sham since I've been in politics. And if you really wanted to know the truth, you sure as hell wouldn't have done what you've done to this guy. Are you a gang rapist?
No.
I cannot imagine what you and your family have gone through. Boy, y'all want power. God, I hope you never get it. I hope the American people can see through this sham, that you knew about it and you held it. You had no intention of protecting Dr. Ford. None. She's as much of a victim as you are. God, I hate to say it because these have been my friends. But let me tell you, when it comes to this, you're looking for a fair process. You came to the wrong town at the wrong time, my friend.
Pretty classic Lindsey Graham. When he's right, he's right. And when he was on fire, there were few that prosecuted better than he did. Stephen Miller, as I was mentioning earlier, the president's chief aide in the White House, wrote a pretty heartfelt tribute and profound tribute to Lindsey Graham. And I thought I would just read it to you in full because it was really well written. And again, this is from Lindsey Graham. He says, at the end of a particularly thrilling and rollicking meeting in the Oval Office, Lindsey Graham turned to the room and said, "I've never had this much fun in my life." And I can't describe to you how much joy President Trump's leadership and friendship brought to Lindsey Graham, writes Stephen Miller. Meetings with Graham at the White House were filled with camaraderie, kinship, and uproarious laughter. As heartbreaking as his sudden passing is, I hope it will bring some measure of comfort to those who cherished him, to know just how much he was living his dream every single day. Very rarely in life do you get to be exactly where you want to be, when you want to be there, with those you want to be with, and doing precisely what you want to do. And that was every moment for Lindsey Graham, writes Stephen Miller. When President Trump won in November of 2024, Lindsey was excited, elated, determined. He couldn't wait to spearhead work as the Budget Committee chairman on the reconciliation bill that would cement President Trump's most important campaign promises. Miller continued, "I'll never forget the Senate lunch when a couple of senators were a tad off the program. And Lindsey, in his own way, made sure everyone was on the same side by the time we left. It was a glorious thing to witness. He knew how to move a room." Miller continued, "Lindsey was a senator's senator. The job was everything to him. Truly did he believe in the splendor of the office and the noble lineage behind it, of which he was the worthy heir. He was a senator in the mold of those who fashioned the institution, some who still had the ability in a heated exchange to use rhetorical power to change the course of events." I'd add kind of like he did in that clip we just played of the Kavanaugh hearings. And Stephen Miller continued by saying, "We will never forget that legendary Kavanaugh moment. We rarely think that we are out of time with our friends. So while there is a lot more I wish I could have had time to say to Lindsey, I am glad that more than once," Stephen Miller writes, "that I told him more than once what that particular moment meant to the whole nation and why he was the only senator who could have done it with such utter perfection. Most importantly," Miller writes, "I had the chance to tell him on many occasions what his friendship meant to me and all of us. There was never once a time he didn't answer a call and lend whatever assistance was required. It was never a question with Lindsey. He believed deeply in the code of friendship and loyalty." The fact that Lindsey started out as a political opponent, only to become the president's most steadfast and faithful supporter, underscores that Lindsey believed emphatically in the voice of the people. There's a lot more I'd like to say. Stephen Miller concludes by saying, "His passing at a time when he'd never been more dynamic is unexpected and is shocking. In many respects, Lindsey was the last of a breed of American senator who we may not see again for a very long time. He lived every minute in the arena, a political gladiator to the very last. More than anything now, our thoughts are with his sister, nieces, and loved ones. We pray that God will ease their sorrow and heal their pain. Lindsey can never be replaced and will never be forgotten." Those are the words of Stephen Miller, President Trump's aide at the White House. Nancy Mace, the former, well, I guess she's still the current representative from South Carolina, had an unsuccessful run in the primary for governor there in South Carolina. There's now serious talk that she may well become a potential nominee. Whoever it is in South Carolina that's chosen by their governor will just simply fill out Graham's term. There will still need to be an election. So exactly how does that work? Nancy Mace, give me number 85 here, if you would, please, Aaron. Here's Nancy Mace talking a little bit about her role in this, if any role in this, if she's legitimately a shot. Is she just floating her own name? Nobody knows for sure. But here's what the Congresswoman Nancy Mace had to say about potentially stepping in and filling this seat.
"I know that right now we're all just stunned that this has happened. Nobody was ready for it. And there are a lot of folks mourning across the state of South Carolina and across the country tonight."
Longer term, he was on the ballot this fall. You ran for governor. Are you considering running for his seat eventually?
I would say right now, my focus is on South Carolina. I think we're all still just sitting here stunned and shocked that this has happened, and we're mourning his loss. I'm never going to shut the door. I love the state of South Carolina. You only live once, and if the people of South Carolina would like me to serve in that capacity, I'll certainly take a look at it. But right now, I just want to focus on him and his legacy, what he did for the state. He was sort of like, I always envisioned him that he would live to 100, that he would be serving South Carolina like Strom Thurmond for decades and bring home all the resources we would ever need, and then some, which is what he did in his career. And that's what we're focusing on right now, is his life, his legacy, his legend, as Trump so well aptly described this morning on all of his TV interviews.
So that's going to be an interesting one to watch. Odds are whoever it is that replaces Lindsey Graham will certainly be a conservative. Will they be a Trump antagonist? Will they be someone who will tack right and help push through? President Trump said yesterday in that phone call with Meet the Press that one of the last things they talked about before hanging up was Lindsey Graham alluding to the Senate nearly being done with the SAVE Act, that they could, in fact, get that thing done. Now, is that entirely clear? No. How they get there, I don't know. But did Lindsey Graham tell the president that there's something going on, that Thune's figured something out? Look, let's hope that's the case. But with Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham now down, the Senate becomes a really interesting mathematical problem. It was already a mathematical problem for Republicans. So whoever the governor fills that seat with, that's going to be a vote that will become pretty important. And we hope that the South Carolina governor chooses wisely in the short term. California has pushed for drive-through bans after a city has now sounded the alarm over In-N-Out Burger and their proposed addition. If you wonder why, here again, nobody wants to live in a state like California, a California city weighing a ban on drive-thrus entirely. Do you drive through for your food wherever you go? I don't care. Arby's, McDonald's, Burger King, whatever. Do you use a drive-through? Starbucks. Well, Culver City, California, the city council a moratorium last month to prohibit permits for new drive-thrus while staff drafted a potential ban. In-N-Out would be the first new drive-thru in Culver City since 1997. The proposed fast food restaurant would include 61 parking spaces and a drive-thru lane that could fit 26 vehicles. Now, In-N-Out is from what I understand, a noted conservative-owned, very popular fast food chain in California that has threatened to leave California before. And I wouldn't blame them if they did. Gavin Newsom, who pretends he thinks he's got a shot at becoming the next president of the United States, I'll believe that when I see it. I guess I shouldn't dismiss Democrats' embrace of lunatic policy, but the guy is such a loser. California is losing, hemorrhaging voters. Give me number 94 here. And he's chiding guys like Elon Musk for packing up and leaving and going to Texas. I just read to you. Give me number 94, Aaron. Here's Culver City, another city, telling a very successful fast food chain, we don't want you. You're not welcome here. Business cannot survive in this place. And guys like Elon Musk know it. What's Gavin Newsom say? The only thing he can say, not that it's governance of California, it's the business owner's fault for not being tolerant enough or something of being bullied. Listen to this.
Elon Musk.
One of the great disappointments. One of the great innovators of our time. I brought up Edison before. He's Edison of our time. It breaks my heart. I was the first, one of the first Teslas off the line. I've been one of their biggest proponents, supporters. Was regulation in California that created the conditions that allowed him to take the risk to become the multi-billionaire, maybe trillionaire that he's become, including Solar City and some of the regulatory frameworks that launched Elon Musk. And he launched this space. Now he's going to space, and he's now turning his back, not only in the state that promote him, though he has no problem getting the R&D tax credits and moving his world headquarters on R&D here and having Grok here and most of his talent here, which is also interesting. But right now he's allowing, and I think this is Trump, not just Elon Musk, he's going to allow the greatest on goal in, I think, one of the most significant on goals in the next decade is ceding the EV space to China. They have 70% of the global EV market. It's about statecraft with them. It's about supply chains. They're flooding the zone all around the globe, including now right on the border into Canada, where they're going to have 49,000 cars getting that tariff down there. And it's a stack play. It's a national security play. And I really fear what's going to happen to American legacy automobile manufacturers. Elon was the one accelerating that. Now he's put the brakes on his own innovation in that space and now shifted to robotics, humanoids, including the line here at Fremont, his largest manufacturing line, arguably outside of Shanghai, the largest in the world.
First of all, can we talk about the hands for a second? Aaron, what do you think? Is he signaling bunt when he... Have you ever noticed he's like, I don't know. What is that? He's milking a cow. He does that thing for a minute.
I can't even watch.
I've never seen a man use his hands quite like that. I do that from time to time. I use my hands quite a bit when I talk, but not like that. He makes cow
It's like he
movements.
prepared. He's like trained or something in a weird way. I don't know.
Does
it
it look
doesn't seem
rehearsed?
genuine.
Yeah.
Yes, it looks very rehearsed.
Yeah, I've
"Don't-
never seen.
You can trust me. You can trust me.
he flips the hands up. He actually pops the top of his hand and does the milking. The milking movement is the most interesting. When he puts the thumbs up, looks like he's milking an udder. That's weird.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm sure Elon loves to take business counsel from the governor, who, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, he made an offhanded comment about, Canada's really on the come here with their car manufacturing and sales with China. Canada and China, they're like this. He held up Canada, not surprisingly, as exemplary. Well, Bill Maher, a fellow Democrat who lives in California, he loves being a Democrat and he loves living in California. Bill Maher has a very different point of view, number 87, about Canada and its future. This is kind of interesting. So again, while Bill thinks that Canada is really on the rise in the ascendancy, here's what Bill thinks about Canada.
There's only one problem with thinking everything's better in Canada. It's not. Not anymore, anyway. Last year, Canada added 1.3 million people, which is a lot in 1 year, the equivalent of the U.S. adding 11 million migrants in 1 year. And now they're experiencing a housing crisis even worse than ours. And we're sleeping in tents. The median price of a home here is $346,000. In Canada, converted to US dollars, it's $487,000. If Barbie moved to Winnipeg, she wouldn't be able to afford her dream house, and Ken would be working at Tim Hortons. And because of mortgage debt, Canada has the highest debt to GDP ratio of any G7 nation. I don't know what that means, but it sounds bad. So does their vaunted healthcare system, which ranks dead last among high-income countries in access to primary healthcare and ability to see a doctor in a day or two. And it's not for lack of spending. Of the 30 countries with universal coverage, Canada spends over 13% of its economy on it, which is a lot of money for free healthcare. Look, I'm not saying Canada still isn't a great country. It is, but those aren't paradise numbers. If Canada was an apartment, the lead feature might be America adjacent. And if America was a rental car, Canada would be America or similar. And again, honestly, Canada, I'm not saying any of this because I enjoy it. I don't, because I've always enjoyed you. But I need to cite you as a cautionary tale to help my country. And the moral of that tale is, yes, you can move too far left. And when you do, you wind up pushing the people in the middle to the right. At its worst, Canada is what American voters think happens when there's no one putting a check on extreme wokeness, like the saga of Canadian shop teacher Kayla Lemieux, whose pronouns are she, her, and those. Kayla is now back to being a guy named Kerry, but 2 years ago when they showed up to teach children, the progressive high school they taught at said that they, the school, not the person. Really, you couldn't have found another word. We were using that one. Anyway, okay. They were committed to a safe environment for gender expression. Safe for who? What about the children?
Yeah. So, very well said by Bill Maher. Bill Maher, very concerned, appropriately so, as a Democrat, that his party has lurched so far left that they're killing themselves. I think we've pretty much concluded, those of us who are sane, the same thing, that Republicans may well end up winning this fall in spite of themselves, simply because the Democrats have just tacked so aggressively left, and Bill Maher is sounding the alarm. Canada is the cautionary tale. The UK, same deal. A Christian member of Finland's parliament who was convicted of hate speech for a pamphlet citing the Bible booked flights with a layover in London. The United Kingdom then rejected her visa application because she was convicted of hate speech, Christianity, in a pamphlet. The UK denied her visa application. Lurching left, lurching left, lurching left. That's what culture is doing in Europe, in Canada, and they're trying to do it here. And again, I commend Bill Maher for trying to sound the alarm. Let's go back to late June. Tim Walz, who was once considered a vice presidential candidate, governor of Minnesota, and was going to run for a third term until massive fraud and massive illegal alien behavior and criminality was uncovered under his tutelage and his leadership. Give me number 91 here. Here's Tim Walz talking back then. This is late June, about pardoning someone, and I'm going to tell you who this person is, who they actually were, and who the record showed us he was. Let's just go back first to June. Here's Tim Walz talking about someone that he has recently pardoned.
In Vang's case, I would state this, that I can find no reason how Minnesota will be safer or better if Mr. Vang is deported to a country he has not been to since he was a child.
Fox 9 reports Vang's victim wrote a letter to the board forgiving him, and they say that was a key factor in their move to pardon Vang. Charlie Rachling with.
Okay, so that was June. So let's go now to Marco Rubio telling us who this guy Vang that Tim Walz pardoned and said, I don't see any reason to deport him. I don't see how we're any safer getting rid of him. Here's Marco Rubio on number 90 telling us who this Vang really is and why it matters that he's deported.
Just weeks ago, a convicted sex offender and a foreign national was shielded from deportation by the governor of Minnesota. Laotian national Tu Le Vang was convicted of repeatedly sexually abusing a 10-year-old girl in the state of Minnesota. He even tried to pay his victim for her silence, and he called his heinous crimes a minor thing. Just days before this foreign sex offender was scheduled to be deported, Tim Walz, the governor, issued him a pardon, setting him free to once again endanger the children of America. Well, this week I revoked his legal status in the United States, and as a result, federal agents took him into custody, and as of today, he has been removed from the United States. Because of our action, this foreign criminal will never pose a threat to any American ever again. Americans must never be forced by their elected leaders to live alongside foreign sex criminals who have no right to begin with to reside in our country. This administration will always stand with the American people and defend them from violent criminals.
That is what the American people want, not Tim Walz. And again, it's what Bill Maher is warning. The Democrat Party will cease to exist politically to most people if they don't recognize these basic premises. We don't want child rapists to be protected and be given protected status when they've broken into the country and they're here illegally to begin with. They've already committed one crime just by being here. And then they commit crimes like that, and they're allowed to stay and they're pardoned by the modern Democrat Party. It's disgusting. And it's an 80-20 issue. Pass the SAVE Act, Republicans in the Senate. Meanwhile, I thought I'd close on an up note today. You know, the World Cup, I don't pay the least bit of attention to soccer, and I'm not picking on you if you do. I get it. World Cup, big deal. The president got FIFA and the World Cup to camp here for a good chunk of the last weeks. A few of them in America's heartland. In Kansas City, at Arrowhead Stadium, where the Kansas City Chiefs play, they have hosted a few of them, and they hosted their most recent and final match between Argentina and Switzerland over the weekend. Local news talked to some of the Swiss fans and Argentinian fans visiting the United States to watch this match. And I thought it interesting, but first I wanted to share with you the FIFA World Cup is delivering a masterclass in global monoculture, writes Axios, stacking blockbuster ratings, on-field theatrics, and a superstar race for soccer immortality. Skeptics spent months bracing for World Cup to collide with a polarized, parochial, and priced-out American public, but the tournament has answered back with the largest U.S. viewing audience in soccer history. Yeah, as it turns out, this has been a pretty big success. I don't know about the finances of it all, but what I do know is Europeans, folks from around the world, they're coming here and visiting, and they don't hate it. They've been told to hate it. There was a massive propaganda operation globally to convince everybody that the United States was the worst place on earth, chief among them, of course, American Democrats. They've done more to make people think this country is rotten to the core than anybody else, but it's been interesting. And I got a couple of news clips that I thought I'd close with today. This is a local Kansas City news outlet who ran around interviewing some members of the crowd who came to watch the Swiss play the Argentinians in Kansas City and their reaction to what they thought about being here in the United States and visiting. It's pretty interesting. Let's take a listen to some of this.
In Europe, we had so many bad news about the United States, about Trump, about ICE. And here we can meet a lot of friendly people. Everything is together. Our boys can make pictures with the cops. They are all friendly. And it's so cool that we are here in the States. You did a great job. It's really a cool thing to be here. In Europe.
Yeah, and this guy who says it's all peace and love and everything's good, man. He's just loving life. He loves being in the Midwest, in the heartland. He loves the United States. It's all love and feel good.
KC, let's go, baby. Oh, people here are awesome. Never thought about it. Middle of nowhere, middle of America. Love it. It's all about love. It's all about people. It's like we are all the same. No matter which color, no matter which age. That's it. That's World Cup. That's human. No politics, nothing. That's it. That's what I love. I love the people. KC.
So that's pretty cool. You'll note the first guy said, I heard about Trump. I heard about ICE. None of that. So there's an Argentinian fan, a Swiss fan, both saying this is all love. It's all fun. And I think that probably, if nothing else, this FIFA excursion, this soccer excursion, this World Cup thing, that's not a big deal to me. And maybe to those of us who aren't soccer fans, maybe the upshot of all of this, whether you like soccer or not, is that the international community got exposed to the United States in a way maybe they haven't in a while. And they hear from their fellow countrymen, who, by the way, are very proud of their country. And I always like to point out, just in closing, the World Cup is a celebration of nationalism. Do you know that? And so the next time you hear somebody say, nationalists, are you some kind of nationalist? Are you some sort of, what does that mean? That's pride in country. Are you proud of your country, the United States? We spent this 250th celebration, we just talked about this last week. The American left, I hate seeing all these flags. I feel threatened by the patriotism. I feel, They have no time for patriotism. What is this? What are all these thousands and thousands of people from foreign countries coming here to watch these soccer matches? What are they displaying? Nationalism, pride of country. They all have their themes and their flags. It's nationalism. It's okay. It's what it's about. These teams squaring off and their fans hoping for victory. It's about a celebration of country. And it's always okay for FIFA and soccer fans to do that, but it's never okay when we celebrate 250 years of the greatest country ever. That's somehow vulgar or gauche or something, according to the left. But I digress. Whether you like soccer or whether you don't, maybe the positive to come out of all of this are international fans who came to visit and found out that this is, in fact, a pretty great country. And maybe they'll go home and share that with others. And maybe for just a moment, the propaganda war has been held at bay. And wouldn't that be a good thing? Excuse me. And here we go. And that'll do it for me today. From America's Heartland, be sure to keep up to date on all the latest news throughout the week. From an honest, straightforward approach, you can find it all at heartlandernews.com. Be sure to subscribe to Heartlander News here on YouTube as well. Give us a like and comment, too, if you're so inclined. We're sure glad to have you along. We'll hope we'll see you next time right here on Heartlander News.